Hello 7th graders, and welcome to lesson 4.1 on unit rates. Chapter 4 is going to be on rates and proportionality. Okay, so before we begin chapter 4, there's a couple topics we need to review first. First, operations with fractions. Proportions are going to be represented as ratios, which kind of look like fractions, so we need to remember how to multiply and divide them. So remember, when we divide a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. There's this example with 3/10 divided by 5/8. So you change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then you flip the second fraction to the reciprocal. So now we have 3/10 times 8/5. And then remember, when we multiply straight across. So 3 times 8 is 24, 10 times 5 is 50. And from there you can simplify by 2 to get 12 over 25. We could have simplified this first. Notice in the example they cross out 10 and make it a 5, and then they cross out 8 and make it a 4. So those were our even numbers before we multiplied. We could simplify it there, or we could just simplify it after. Either way, you end up with 12/25. Okay, so I'll do these couple first ones with you, and then you're going to do 3 and 4 on your own. So 3/4 divided by 4/5. We're going to change to 3/4 times 5/4. 3 times 5 is 15, 4 times 4 is 16. That is simplified. All right, and then number 2, 5/9 divided by 10/11. We're going to change that to 5/9 times 11/10. 5 times 11 is 55. 9 times 10 is 90. We can simplify this by 5. 55 divided by 5 is 11. 90 divided by 5 is 18. So our final answer is 11/18. All right, pause the video, try numbers 3 and 4 on your own, then check back to see if you got them right. All right, for number 3, we would have had 3/8 times 2 over 1, which is 6/8, which we can simplify to 3/4. And number 4, we get 16/21 times 9 over 8. This one is going to be a lot easier if we simplify it before multiplying it out. 8 goes into 16, so I'm going to cross out 16 and make it a 2. We're going to cross out the 8 and make it a 1. And then 9 and 21 also have common factors. That common factor is 3. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Now I can multiply it out, and I'll have my simplest form fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6. 7 times 1 is 7. Final answer for number 4 is 6/7. All right, another topic we need to review before getting into Unit 4 is ordered pairs. When we talk about proportion, sometimes we're going to talk about distance. So it's important to know what ordered pairs are on a graph so that we can learn about distance and not be stuck. Okay, so here's our example. Where is point A? Point A, we're going to count the units on the x-axis, so we move over 1, 2, and then we go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was x-coordinate is 2, y-coordinate is -4. We write that as the ordered pair 2, -4. An important reminder, when we're doing ordered pairs, they always go in the order x, y. All right, so point B on this graph is over 1, 2, 3, 4. -4 on the x-axis, and then up 1 on the y-axis. So we're going to write that as -4, 1. All right, see if you can find the rest of these on your own. Play the video back to see if you got them right. All right, we should also review some vocab before getting started with the 4.1 lesson. So we're going to complete this word web by using the words with a check mark next to it from the word bank. So let's check out the word web first. I see it's on use of ratios. I see 2/4 equals 3/6, 36%, 6:1, and 12 inches over 1 foot. All right, now let's look at the words that we're filling in. So our first word is a conversion factor. A conversion factor is a ratio or a fraction that has different units for when you're converting between different units. The word web box that matches this is 12 inches to 1 foot. I'm going to put conversion factor in there. I would use this ratio if I was converting between inches and feet. So conversion factor. All right, next word, we can cross that off if we want. Next word is equivalent ratios. Those are fractions that are equal to each other. That is this first box here. Equivalent ratios, because 2/4 is equal to 3/6. It's also equal to 1/2. That is another equivalent ratio. All right, percent are the things with the fancy percent sign. That's a percent. Those are ratios out of 100. And then a ratio it's also written as a fraction, but sometimes it's written as a number to another number, or sometimes it has a colon in it. In this case, they wrote 6:1. That's a ratio. All right, so now the second part says, understand vocabulary, match the term on the left to the definition on the right. So we have rate of change, proportion, and unit rate. All right, so statement that two rates or ratios are equivalent. That is going to be a proportion. A rate that describes how one quantity changes in relation to another quantity. That is going to be a rate of change. It's the rate of how quantities change in relation to another. And the last one says the rate in which the second quantity is 1 unit. That is a unit rate. A unit rate is 1 unit. All right, so let's get started with 4.1. 4.1 is actually on unit rates, so remember that's a rate in which the second quantity is 1 unit. All right, let's look at example 1. Jeff hikes half a mile every 15 minutes or quarter hour. Lisa hikes 1/3 mile every 10 minutes or 1/6 hour. How far do they each hike in 1 hour? How about 2 hours? All right, we're going to start with 1 hour. So Jeff hikes half a mile every 15 minutes or quarter hour. To figure out how much Jeff hikes in 1 hour, we're going to multiply that distance, that half mile, by 4. So notice this picture that's set up here. We're going to do half mile plus a half mile plus a half mile plus a half mile. Turns out Jeff hikes 2 miles in 1 hour. All right, then second, Lisa hikes 1/3 of a mile every 10 minutes or 6th hour. So this is Lisa's down here. This is Lisa's. We're going to take the distance, or the 1/3 mile, and we're going to multiply it by 6. So 1/3 times 6 is also going to be 2 miles per hour. All right, so our solution is that they each hike 2 miles in 1 hour. Let's look at another way to solve this. Look at part B to this equation. So this is setting up Jeff's distance per the amount of time. So they first told us that in 1/4 of an hour, he's hiked a half a mile. Then we're going to look at the second box and how the first box changed to get to the second box. So 1/4 to get to 1/2, we're going to multiply by 2, which means we're going to multiply 1/2 times 2 to get 1. He's hiked 1 mile in half an hour. Then we can also take that 1/4 times 3. So 1/4 times 3 to get to 3/4. So 1/2 times 3 is going to be 3/2. He's hiked 3/2 of a mile in 3/4 of an hour. And last, 1/4 times 4 to get to 1. So 1/2 times 4 is going to be 2 miles. Now to get to that last box, we can also use this box. So how does 1 get to 2? We multiply by 2. So we're going to multiply the distance 2 times 2 as well to get 4 miles. In 2 hours, they will have hiked 4 miles. This is also saying that 2/1 equals 4/2. Those are equivalent ratios, both equal to 2. All right, see if you can complete the table for Lisa's hike. Pause the video, fill it out, and then play it back to see if you got it right. All right, next example, and we're reading from here now. Okay, while remodeling her kitchen, Angela is repainting. She estimates that she paints 55 square feet every half hour. How many square feet does Angela paint per hour? Well, first, let's set up a ratio for what we know. We're going to set up area in square feet per time in hours. So we know she paints 55 square feet in a half an hour. We're going to set up a ratio, 55 square feet in a half an hour. Now let's think, what do we want to know? We want to know how much she paints in 1 hour. So we set up the ratio. She paints 55 square feet in a half hour. I want to know how many feet in 1 hour. Then we have to think, how does 1/2 get to 1? Well, we multiply by 2. So then we're going to multiply 55 by 2, and we get 110 square feet per hour. All right, let's do number 3 together, and then you'll try number 4 on your own. Paige mows 1/6 acre in 1/4 hour. How many acres does Paige mow per hour? First, we're going to set up a ratio for what we know. We know she mows 1/6 of an acre in 1/4 of an hour. We want to know how many acres she mows in 1 hour. Next, we have to think, how does 1/4 get to 1? Well, we multiply by 4. So now we're going to multiply 1/6 by 4, and we get 4/6 of an acre, or 2/3 of an acre. Paige mows 2/3 of an acre in 1 hour. All right, pause the video, try number 4 on your own, play it back to see if you got it right. All right, so number 4, you set up the ratio 3 ounces per 3/4 serving equals how many ounces per 1 serving? To get from 3/4 to 1, we multiply by 4/3. 3 times 4/3 is 4, so there are 4 ounces of pasta in 1 serving. Keep in mind when we're doing ratios in fractions, we always multiply to get to the next term. So I could have also said we add 1/4, but that wouldn't have given me the correct answer of 4 ounces of pasta. So when we're dealing with equivalent fractions, we multiply. All right, next example. 2 pools are leaking. After 15 minutes, pool A has leaked 2/3 gallon. After 20 minutes, pool B has leaked 3/4 of a gallon. Which pool is leaking faster? We need to find the rate per time at which each pool is leaking. So first, let's look at pool A. It's leaking 2/3 of a gallon in 15 minutes, which is also 2/3 gallon in 1/4 hour. And let's set up a ratio for pool B. We know it's leaking 3/4 of a gallon in 20 minutes, which is the same thing as 3/4 of a gallon in 1/3 of an hour. All right, now we need to find the unit rates. Another helpful trick when we're finding unit rates is that since we know that the second ratio is going to be over 1, anything divided by 1 is itself. So whatever I get to this division problem is going to be that number over 1. So we can always just multiply it out to get our unit rate. All right, so 2/3 divided by 1/4 is going to be the same thing as 2/3 times 4 over 1. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. So pool A is leaking 8/3 of a gallon per hour. Could also be 2 2/3 per hour. All right, pool B, we're going to use that same method by just dividing it out. 3/4 divided by 1/3 is the same thing as 3/4 times 3 over 1. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4. Pool B is leaking 9/4 of a gallon per hour, or 2 1/4 of a gallon per hour. All right, now we compare the unit rates, and I know 2/3 is bigger than 1/4, so pool A is leaking faster. All right, your homework today is to do numbers 1 through 7 all. Email me if you need any help.